planning and preparing for it. He made his admission to two members of the Public's Inquiry's legal team. When wildfires raged through Australia a year ago, they spared neither humans nor animals. The forest habitat of koalas went up in flames, and many of those that survived only did so with serious burns. Since then, they've been nursed back to health, and they are now being released to return to their home patch.
It has been a long road to recovery, but these koalas showed no hesitation as they were released back into the forests where they so nearly died. They are apparently eager to return to a landscape which still bears the scars of Australia's worst bushfire disaster. These animals were all treated for the effects of smoke and burns, then gradually nursed back to health.
It's amazing, actually. They both were really badly burnt, and there was a whole team effort to get them here, and so much love, so much knowledge, experience.
The plight of koalas like this seem to symbolise the awful toll of bushfires on Australia's environment. More than 27 million acres of forest were incinerated. But over the weekend, the spectre of fire is once again stalking this vast continent. This time, Fraser Island off the coast of Queensland is under threat. Residents forced to flee this World Heritage site as the smoke and flame closes in. One community leader told me how the island is being devastated.
It was scary. You could tell that the firefighters weren't sure if they had it under control for about an hour. It was terrifying. And we've got, a small community, and you go to the west, and there was you could see there was a big fire front there, and it was just roaring. And then you look to the east, and it was happening to the west. It was just crazy.
With record temperatures in November and more fire warnings in place, many are worried about the long-term cost to this country's ecosystems and animals, still recovering from last Christmas's so-called Black Summer. Dan Rivers, News at 10.
From Edinburgh to Berwick, West Yorkshire and Manchester, William and Kate have spent the day on a whistle-stop tour of Britain to say thank you to essential workers for keeping going during the pandemic. Train travel is allowed in Scotland if it's for work, but when First Minister Nicola Sturgeon made clear that she had set out the rules to the royal household, it didn't sound entirely like she thought it was a good idea.
Stop number 5, day 2 for the royal train as it pulled into Manchester tonight, lent to William and Kate by the Queen for their 3-day tour of Britain. At each stop, they have thanked key workers. Tonight, it was food bank volunteers working late on an industrial estate. Here, as elsewhere, volunteers have seen an alarming rise in food poverty during the pandemic, and they are struggling to keep up.
We already suffer from poverty, so in the pandemic, having jobs cut, 0-hour contracts, all sorts of things, it has exposed us.
And for them to come and say thank you and to take notice, I think it's a phenomenal thing for us to know that people care.
Today's tour had started in Edinburgh after a sleep on board the royal train from London. The task here, to thank those NHS staff at the very front line of this year's battle against COVID. But in a different part of the UK with different restrictions, First Minister Nicola Sturgeon didn't sound overly enthusiastic about the royal plans to travel north of the border.
The royal visit is a matter for the royal household. The Scottish Government was advised about the intention to visit, and we made sure that the royal household were aware, as you would expect, of all of the restrictions in place.
The northeast corner of England was next, where reindeer had flown in entirely, possible of course, to a school in Berwick-upon-Tweed. Like most schools, the teachers here kept it open during the lockdown and also adapted to remote learning. This is the first time William and Kate have used the royal train in this way. It's a luxury only afforded to the royals, and it doesn't come cheap, but it has allowed them to visit 3 of the 4 UK nations in 2 days, and of course, this train is rarely late. So they were also on time to meet someone Kate has spoken to before when she volunteered to phone carers. In Batley in West Yorkshire, Len Gardner cares for his wife, who has Alzheimer's.
And it's a day that very few people might not experience. But I've experienced it, and I've loved every minute.
Their train travels through the night to Wales tomorrow. No clue yet how the Welsh Government will respond. Friship, News at 10 on the Royal Train Tour.
In both quality and quantity, the songwriting of Bob Dylan is amongst the greatest in the world, and now he has sold his entire back catalogue of 600 songs. The treasure trove of hits like The Times They Are A-Changing has been bought by Universal Music, but no one is saying how much for. Music experts say only the songs of the Beatles have been as influential. Finally, we have tracked the appearances of the strange, otherworldly monoliths around the world. Now one has appeared much closer to home. This is Compton Beach on the Isle of Wight. The reflective metal structure appeared as if by magic over the weekend. This is the fourth now. The last one was in California, but the group that claims to be behind that one says the Isle of Wight monolith is nothing to do with them. So, who knows where the next one will appear? Rest assured, wherever it is and whenever it does, we will give it a mention. And that's it for tonight. I'll be here tomorrow. See you then. But for now, good night, and thank you very much for watching.
It is more than a year since we've seen you. What did we do wrong?
I know coming on this show is not an easy ride, but I've always enjoyed it. I've never shied away from it. And I'm really glad that we have got this rapprochement. It shows that anything's possible. And being here this morning, it's like Christmas come early.
Good morning, Britain. Weekdays from 6. It looks like it's going to be chilly out there today, so make sure you wrap up warm. Heinz Seriously Good Mayonnaise sponsors national weather.
A very good evening to you. So cold once more. Temperatures have struggled all day, barely above freezing in some spots, if at all, and thick freezing fog reforming in many spots tonight, giving poor visibility. Wet further north and further west. A sign of things to come. Slightly less cold air on the cards. This is the way things look as the night continues. Freezing, frosty heights across central and southeastern, becoming extensive as it thickens up and reforms. Terrible visibility well into the night and through the small hours here. Further north, patchy frost. The mist and fog kept at bay by brisk winds, with blustery wet weather giving some sleet and some snow across the Highlands of Scotland. And a slow grey start once more across the southeast, bitterly cold with the frost and that freezing fog first thing. Temperatures doing little better than today, but the chilly feel enhanced by any lingering fog and brisk winds. And the pulses of rain across the north and the west, a little drier to the south and the southeast.
Heinz Seriously Good Mayonnaise sponsors ITV National Weather.
Hello, welcome to the latest update from Canada. First tonight, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge visited our region today to spread some lockdown cheer. Yesterday, they boarded the Royal Train at London Euston to embark on what will be a 3-day tour of Britain to thank key workers and to meet those affected by the pandemic. This afternoon, they arrived at Batley, and Rachel Townsend was there.
For Len Gardner, Christmas must certainly come early. The care of the white big Samantha visit from the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge.
Absolutely fabulous. There are very few words that I can find to describe it. It's a day, obviously a day I'll never forget. And it's a day that very few people might not experience. But I've experienced it, and I've loved every minute.
Well, it has merged the men and the Duchess, who've been exchanging letters over the last few months. In those letters, there's the shared love of Italian cooking, so in response, the Duchess sent him a pasta-making machine. Have you been using that pasta machine, or have you been...
Oh, I use it once a week. We have a royal pasta day each week.
Then with
paired with the Duchess in the Royal Voluntary Service.
Lenny is such a social person, and when during the lockdown it's been very, very difficult for him. So at least this way he's been able to keep engaged with people, which has been wonderful.
Today's royal visit was part of a whistle-stop UK tour aimed at lifting spirits, and it has certainly done that.
Colin, you had a bit of a chat with the Duke. What did he say?
Hello. Yeah, he asked me, what are you doing with your slippers on? I said, well, I'm almost done.
It was great, wasn't it? Absolutely fantastic. And music as well to make it just like Christmas. Lift up the spirits down here because we're all level 3 and I've never seen as many people.
Then his wife and the royal couple spent around 10 minutes chatting, laughing, even dancing on their doorstep. It is the 10 minutes Len will never forget. Rachel Townsend, ITV News, Bathurst.
Now, there are only a few hours to go until what's been called V-Day, the day COVID-19 vaccines will finally be administered for the first time in the UK. Doses have already arrived at 50 so-called hospital hubs ahead of tomorrow's rollout. In our part of the world, those trusts taking part include Leeds Teaching Hospitals, Sheffield Teaching Hospitals, Chesterfield Royal and Sherwood Forest Hospitals. People aged 80 and over, as well as care home workers, will be the first to receive the jab, along with NHS workers who are at higher risk. Sally Simpson was in Sheffield for us earlier.
It's the largest ever vaccine rollout in UK history. 800,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine arrived into the UK over the last 24 hours and has been distributed to hospitals around the country, including here in Sheffield. They've been chosen for their capability to keep the vaccine at temperatures below -70 degrees centigrade, and that means that only a small fraction of the population will receive the vaccine in this first phase. That will be people aged over 80 who are already attending hospital as outpatients, or those who are inpatients will receive it before they're discharged. Because the vaccination will only be given to a small proportion of the population, it means restrictions will still have to stay in place, as this West Yorkshire GP told me.
Even though the vaccine is out tomorrow, it's going to be quite some time before it actually gets us back to normality. We need a certain threshold of the population to be vaccinated before we can get back to those normal lives we so desperately want. So until then, we need to wear our masks, we need to socially distance, we need to wash our hands, and really just be mindful that this virus is still out there and we are doing our best to fight it.
There are still several challenges facing this vaccination programme. The temperature that the vaccine has to be stored at is one. Also, the fact that it has to be administered in 2 doses, the first on day 1 and the second on day 21. There are hopes that another vaccine will soon come forward that can be administered to the vast majority of the population. But until then, restrictions will remain in place. As one expert said today, the vaccination programme is a marathon, not a sprint. Sally Simpson, ITV News, Sheffield.
The leader of Leeds City Council says it's a crucial week for the city if it's to stand a chance of moving out of the stricter COVID tier next week. The Prime Minister suggested that millions of people in Tier 3 could have their coronavirus restrictions eased before Christmas, with tiers changed depending on infection rate in local authorities rather than in the region or county as a whole.
There's a key review of all of the data coming up, and we expect to probably hear by the end of next week whether the government feel that we've done enough to move down to Tier 2, which would then mean that the wider hospitality sector and our entertainment venues would be able to open in the week before Christmas. So there's a lot riding on it.
2 people are still in hospital after an explosion totally destroyed a house in West Yorkshire at the weekend. Fire crews worked alongside police, the ambulance service and utility companies to deal with the aftermath of the blast at Green Lane in Illingworth near Halifax. A number of survivors were evacuated as severe burns, and the 64-year-old man are both said to be in a stable condition. The third person was taken to hospital but has since been discharged.